Hi, Dr. Deloach. It's me, Bailey. I am going to show you my case study for my client. So, this is my case study presentation. My child is a child with autism spectrum disorder, so that's what this will be about. So, the assessment tool that we use is the SOAP notes. So, SOAP is an acronym for subjective, what the patient says about the problem, and intervention. Objective, the therapist's objective observations and treatment interventions. Assessment, the therapist's analysis of the various components of the assessment. And plan, how the treatment will be developed to reach the goals or objectives. And then I do SOAP notes after every session and just fill that up. So the diagnosis is the client is an 8-year-old male with autism spectrum disorder. And just a little information about what that is the disorder is characterized in varying degrees by difficulties in social interaction, verbal and nonverbal communication, and repetitive behaviors. Autism spectrum disorder can also be associated with intellectual disability, difficulties in motor coordination and attention, and physical health issues such as sleep and gastrointestinal disturbances. Some persons with ASD excel in visual skills, music, math, or art. The specific symptoms that my client presents with are significant problems developing nonverbal communication skills, such as his eye contact, his facial expressions, and body posture. He has a really hard time maintaining eye contact when he's talking. It's really hard for him. And then his facial affect is not really developed, and his body posture, he rocks back and forth when he sits on the ground almost all the time. And then repetitive use of language and echolalia. When I first met this client, he spoke hardly any in his own original thoughts. He has echolalia, so he basically just memorizes things off TV shows or things his parents have said, and he repeats them all the time. And you can tell because often he doesn't respond in ways that are fitting or make sense. And then he also talked a lot in an accent, and he would make up his own language. So basically just speak gibberish. And then difficulty understanding his listener's perspective. This is really evident when we do applied piano lessons. It's often like he doesn't even know the music therapist is there, or he didn't know the music therapist was there. He would reward himself, and he had a hard time following directions or understanding that he wasn't doing what he wanted to do. And then preoccupation with certain topics. For him, it's television shows and game shows. He was really obsessed with Curious George and Family Feud when I first met him, and he would quote things from those two shows all of the time. And then body rocking in his chair. Something we want to work on. So the goals and objectives that we created for my specific client, after the client was obsessed, we established the goals that client will develop appropriate interactions as measured by the following. Client will improve appropriate greetings when he enters the room. Client will maintain eye contact 80% of the time. And client will redirect eye contact when prompted by the music therapist. Client will ask questions when appropriate. Client will answer questions when asked 100% of the time. We don't go on until he answers a question as best as he can. Client will respond to prompting 100% of the time. Client will improve echolalia as measured by the following. Client will come up with original answers to questions. Client will not repeat things he's heard from an outside source 90% of the time. This gives room for some of the things that he's heard from his mom or from his teachers. Client will speak in his original voice 100% of the time, and he will not do accents or impersonations. So that is a no-go in our sessions. We don't do accents. Then client will increase social emotional skills as measured by the following. Client will identify various simple emotional states in self with 2 to 3 opportunities to do so during the session, and client will state why he might be feeling a particular emotion given 2 to 3 opportunities to do so during the session. So that just means that during the session, about 2 or 3 times during our 30-minute session, I will ask him how he feels about something and why he thinks he feels that way, to kind of try and get him talking and using original thoughts to express his own emotions. Then client will improve joint attention as measured by the following. Client will maintain eye contact while answering questions 100% of the time, and client will follow directions while drumming. So that brings me to the therapeutic functions of music. This is just basically some research that's going to explain why music therapy is effective in this population for children with autism. In a 2009 study by Kim, Wigram, and Gold, They found that children with autism showed more emotional expression and social engagement during music therapy sessions than in play sessions without music. These children also responded to the therapist's requests more frequently during music therapy than in play sessions without music. So this basically is just proving that music in and of itself is a motivator and will get a response out of children more than just a play session. A music therapist can use music with children to increase their social interaction and improve social skills. Passing and sharing instruments, music and movement games, gathering around a central instrument, learning to listen, and singing of greetings are all ways that music therapy sessions can increase interaction. And then in a study in 2004, it was found that music could improve the mapping of sounds to action by connecting the auditory and motor section of the brain, which may help improve understanding of verbal commands. By pairing music with action and with repetitive training, the brain pathways needed to speak can be reinforced and improved. So, continuing on that. In a small 4-week study conducted at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse in 2006, it was found that preliminary success in reducing anxiety in patients with autism through music therapy. After 16 short 20-minute sessions during which the treatment patients listened to rhythmic music, the participants who received the therapy appeared to have decreased anxiety-related behaviors. And then last of all, music therapy is engaging and enjoyable for children with autism. So that brings me to the technology appropriate for inclusion and treatment. There's a lot of iPad apps that we like to use. In my client session, he really likes the iPad. That gets him very engaged. So one of them is Prologue2Go. So this is an app for children who have difficulty building vocabulary and speaking. Using natural voices to dictate words, Prologue2Go offers a comprehensive library of more than 14,000 symbols to help build language. Customized world libraries learn how each word sounds and much more. So this is good for children who have speech delays, but it's also good for him with echolalia learning to formulate his own sentences and not just repeating things. Soundshaker. This highly intuitive musical app allows children to play with chimes, whistles, drums, barnyard animal sounds, and mystery sounds, all by tapping the screen. Repeated taps generate new sounds, whereas prolonged taps generate increased volume and surprise animations. Then Autism Emotion is the next app. It's a great visual teaching tool for helping children learn about different emotions through photos, text, narration, and music. It also includes audio narration, descriptive text of each photo, and the coolest thing is songs by the music therapist Rachel Rambaugh. And then Monkey Drum is my client's favorite app. It's basically just the one where you tap the drum and you can make the monkey play, but different rhythms of tapping can cause different animations and things like that he has to kind of work through. So over the course of the semester, there were a lot of interventions that we did. To name a few, we started every session with a hello song that focused on appropriate interactions and joint attention. We had a ritual of a drum intervention called Drum Together that focused on joint attention, eye contact, turn-taking, and self-expression. And then every session we played Family Feud, which is a game that we made up to create. We created it to focus on asking questions and answering questions to work with his echolalia and sentence forming. And then for evaluation and plan for reassessment. Over the course of the semester, it's been shown that the client has improved appropriate interactions as evidenced by greeting when he enters the room, maintaining eye contact, and answering questions appropriately when asked. Client has improved echolalia as evidenced by talking more frequently in his original voice, coming up with original answers to questions. Client has improved joint attention as evidenced by following directions while drumming during drumming interventions. And then client should be assessed using SOAP notes after every single session to ensure that progress is being made and if anything needs to change. And that brings me to my sources. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Have a good summer.